Happy New Year, everyone. In fact, it's a little bit belated because it's the 6th of December. And I have a huge apology to make. It's been ages since I posted a film and or an update, and I will you'll understand why as I explain where we're at. So we are in the UK on the 6th of January. I think where we left it was that we were just trying to get to the bottom of how to move my business over to France, and we were having some support from a French accountant, and it was quite a frustrating process. They weren't very forthcoming, and I think this is an experience that I think others have reflected from things that I've researched, that we had, that rather than an accountant trying to find the best way for us financially to make those decisions, we seem to need to keep feeding them and then getting feedback on whether or not that was an option. And it certainly was going to be something that was going to be more costly to work in France. But, we accepted that was going to be the case. And once we knew what the reality looked like, that helped. So come, it was at the beginning of December, I think, we got to a point where we were at a bit of a tipping point. So we had the apartment, we had organised for someone to come and have a look at the internet. Well, somebody had gone and done a survey on the internet, because one of our key problems was that we couldn't really work in the apartment that we had because the internet wasn't good enough. So we'd had someone do a survey, so we knew what that was. It was going to cost about €700 to make that good, which was basically going to be an aerial and using 4G rather than ADSL, which is what we had been down. We had two missed appointments from SF Air who were going to fit the ADSL, and actually they didn't turn up either time, and then actually it transpired that ADSL wasn't even possible where that was, so that was frustrating. I set up a bank account, so I set up with Britain, who I have to say were great. I was quite surprised at the process, although probably I shouldn't have been, that you did it all online, sent copies of the documents that they wanted. Then they booked a phone interview, which was about 45 minutes with a guy. He was an English guy, actually, who lived in Normandy and was very, very lovely. And that person is then your sort of your relationship manager. So that was really reassuring, actually, that you had somebody that you'd built that relationship with that you could call on if you had any questions or whatever. So that was really helpful, although somewhat protracted in terms of getting to a point of actually being able to use the bank account. And all the paperwork did eventually come through, got a card, got a checkbook. Yeah, checkbook. I mean, checks are still a big thing in France, much more than they are here. Which is actually interesting, because that's based on, actually, you've got a limited amount that you can spend on your card and a limited amount of cash you can get from a cash point. But actually with a check, there's no limit on it. As long as the person who's receiving the check is happy with it, you can make a check out for as much as you might want. So if you're buying a car or whatever, which you couldn't do using a card, you could do with a check. And how that was explained to me was that because they come down so hard on people who present checks that they can't honour, even if it's a few pounds, that people just don't do it. So people do feel very safe with people using checks. Anyways, so we had everything in place, and then we're at the point where we were going to commit to this work being done around the internet, so that's €700. Or we had hand holders who were going to do all the process of getting my residency sorted out. That was about another €700 actually, and we'd just paid that, and we'd had this accountant who had quoted us a lot of monthly money actually to move the business over, but so we're about to press go on everything. So anyway, I'm coming to the punchline. Sorry, bear with me. So we sat down and said, right, come on, this is the point. We really need to decide whether this feels like the right thing to do. Also, at that time, both our boys were having to self-isolate because somebody in their bubble at school had tested positive, and in fact both the boys had been close contacts of these kids, so they were self-isolating. My daughter hadn't had face-to-face lessons at college for weeks by this point, and so we took a few days over it, but we decided it just isn't the right time, and that's why I've just not been able to face doing a video. And I've had some such lovely encouraging comments on the YouTube channel, and I feel guilty. I feel like I'm letting people down because we've not been brave and carried it on. But so we're now probably 3 or 4 weeks, maybe a little bit longer, from having made that decision, and we were both really low, actually, having decided not to go. We both feel it's the right thing. We still feel it's the right thing to have done. But just the hope that the move gave us, it enabled us to just not have to give the whole Brexit situation much sort of care in a way, because we felt like it wasn't going to affect us because we were going to get out of it. The way that our government has run the country and governed this whole COVID situation, it just suddenly feels like the weight of a country that we don't feel very proud of anymore is on our shoulders again. So that feels hard to get our heads around. I think, if I'm honest, another reason so the kids' situation and worrying about them and just not being able to know what's going to happen in the future, just not knowing where this is going. And actually, as it happens, it's just got much worse than we'd have even considered when we were making the decision not to follow through. So, we're now a day into the 3rd lockdown, so the kids aren't going to school at all now. So again, it would have been utterly impossible for us to have done the being in France and being in the UK that we'd intended to do in order to make it work in the immediate term before the kids were just that little bit older. What was I going to say? So the reasons why do feel right, and it would have been impossible. Oh yes, so I think what we also really realised, as much as we love France and we do certainly want to be somewhere, I think that the honest truth is we want to be out of the UK. That's what feels most important. And actually, even with being in France and with that meaning that we are away from the UK, what that doesn't give us is what we lose as European citizens of the freedom of movement around Europe. And because it is a compromise, it's not, it felt like maybe we were putting too much store on what moving to France could achieve for us. And we would never have chosen for it at this time because of the kids, and because we're both still working. We would always have planned to have done a move like this in 3 or 4 years' time. We just were stubbornly determined to that point of making it happen before Brexit. And we just had to be honest with ourselves and agree that it wasn't actually what was right for our families and actually us at this point. So loads of learning done. I mean, I don't regret any of it. It's cost us some money for sure. We had a 3-month notice period on our apartment, so we were able to get out of that. We weren't committed to that for the year, so that was really helpful. And the owners of the apartment have been brilliant. We're still unpicking bits of it, of reconciling electricity, and because I'd moved the electricity over to our name, and so there are still some things to unpick and to close the bank account. And in my experience, closing things or cancelling things in France is much more difficult than setting them up. So we'll see how that goes. But it is an experience that I don't regret. I'm not sure I'm going to be quite so driven to learn French as I was before, because I found that really hard. But you never know. I certainly improved, but there was a long way to go. That was going to be my big nemesis. So it's a bit of a relief that I'm not having to, all the stakes aren't quite so high, at least, about the learning French. So if any of you are still doing it, are in the process of doing it, it would be amazing to hear how you've managed over the last month, because I think it's been much, much, much harder than we'd ever imagined it could get. Had we been trying to get, I've still got in my diary going to France, coming back from France, going to France, coming back from France. Had we been attempting to get to France to be there for the 31st, it would have been, it wouldn't have been possible, I'm sure, and it would have been massively stressful trying to make it happen. So there is certainly a piece in abandoning it, but there is disappointment. So yeah, that's where we're at. So thank you everyone that's taken the time to watch these, and hang on to your dreams. Don't give up. If there's a way that if it feels right and it still feels hopeful, then go for it. It's been a fabulous experience, and having that joint endeavour, particularly with a partner or a family, is really, really exciting. So for any of you that are embarking on it, I wish you all the best. And I'm sorry that I can't keep sharing our experiences and journeys with those of you that have watched these films. But Happy New Year. I really hope 2021 is an amazing year for you all. And who knows, maybe I will be back with another film with our next adventure. But for now, cheers. Stay safe, everyone.